So I'm saying goodbye to the blues and yesterday's tears. It's been a number of years, but damn it, I'm back.
Teach me how to keep you sweet, Lord, sweet forever. Try down, I'll bury you beside me. Sweet, Lord, sweet forever.
I'm back.
You tell me you love me, but do you really mean it? Can you show me how to love when you tell me you want me? Boy, it tastes so sweet that I can just eat you up. How you feel on my body, touch me so softly. It feels like I'm flying away, 'cause you're my escape. The rush that you make me feel whenever I'm with you. My brown sugar baby is so sweet, 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 so sweet, so sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh baby, this is so sweet. You hit me, it's so sweet. Brown sugar baby is so
Many
sweet.
times I've told you I can't let you go, and every time I've meant it, but I know reassurance is the way to go. So I'll keep on telling you, I love you, I love you. There's nobody above you, 'cause you got me deep in my feels, and the way that you love me, it feels so sweet. Sweet, sweet, so sweet. The way that you love me, it feels so sweet. Sweet, sweet, so sweet. You're so sweet. It's how you love me. It's the way you touch me, yeah. My one and only girl.
So sweet, 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 so sweet, so sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh baby, this is so sweet. You hit me, it's so sweet. My sugar baby, it's so sweet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Monday Night Live with Daryl Moss. I'm Robert Jones. Welcome to Insight. As you can see, I have a whiteboard behind me, and we're going to get into a couple of those things, but I wanted to talk about what I saw recently over the weekend on social media. People being commemorated, holidays being commemorated, and you had the same people who have been attacking your community show up to get their airtime, get their FaceTime, get their media time, and you're allowing it. The gnat syndrome. What do you do when a gnat comes flying around you? You swat it away, and what does that gnat do? It keeps coming back. When are we going to stop being stupid? You wouldn't openly and brazenly invite a Klansman with full garb on to your cookout. Why are you inviting these Klans people who are masquerading in regular street clothes? But it still doesn't change the ideology. It still doesn't change who they be beholden to. It still doesn't change the fact they do not care about you. You're insignificant. And nothing changes because you don't change. If we want a paradigm shift, That requires us to make a significant change in our thought process and our ideology. We pray to Democrats and we pray to white Jesus. And we got to stop doing that. And everybody else is getting the picture. Everyone else is getting the hint. There's a lady in Texas, Myra Flores, who won an election down there that's been a Democrat stronghold for over 100 years. And she went as a Republican. And she won. And her message was simply, Democratic Party's not doing anything for my community and her Hispanic community. And I'm not mad at her. When are we going to start doing that? When are we going to start doing that? Let's just talk locally here for a second. How many cookouts, how many outings, how many showcases, and certain people showed up? And those certain black faces are right there next to that person. We're going to have some dinner and dialogues coming up talking about politics in the black community, making a change in the black community. And some of the same talking heads that have participated in our events are not going to be invited to our events. People are going to we're going to start labeling them, and we're going to start letting people know that, yeah, we don't rock with you. You're not down for us. You ain't down with us because you look like us, but you ain't down with us. So when you see events coming up on Facebook or social media that we're hosting, and you see a lot of folks on the outside of Springfield community, or you see Springfield residents participating and joining these discussions, and you're not part of the discussion, instead of like, why am I not invited? Look introspectively as to, why am I not invited? What am I doing that makes me not palatable to be involved in such a robust and critical and crucial discussion? What am I not bringing to the table? Because when you ask the question, you will be told why. Let me give you an example of what self-sabotage looks like. And this is national, and I'm not going to name the name. Some of you might be able to figure this out on your own by looking at some. And I'm sorry if it's not legible. I had a lot to put on here, and I tried to write it as large as I can and as neat as I can. But I'm going to read it. So when we talk about self-sabotage, here's an example of self-sabotage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the demographics first. We're talking about a state with a population of 5.5 million people. And of that 5.5 million total people, between 1.5 to 2 million are black. And then you have 3,000 Catawba Indians. And bear with me, it is related to the story. And that might be a giveaway. So when you look at the average income for that state, Asians on average earn about $58,000. White people on average earn about $56,000. Black people on average earn about $28,000. So you already see the disparity there already. And economists also, I think that the national average income for the black community is like around 24,000, and it keeps going down. And they estimate by 2050, the net income of black people in this country is going to be zero. So right here I have in parentheses 20 acres and lift every voice. So here's the demographic. Now when I talk about self-sabotage, okay, you are representing your district, and it's the 6th poorest district in the United States. And to give it some context, there's 435 congressional districts in the United States, and you're the 6th poorest. You have the highest amounts of toxic water, and there's 2 counties in particular, but I just left them out because I wanted to kind of keep this as broad as possible. You have the highest eviction rates in the nation. You have the worst healthcare outcomes in the country. And what does that mean, Rob? Worst healthcare outcomes? Well, for one thing, and there's more, but this is the thing that really stood out to me. You have the highest number of black amputees in the nation. When you're looking at black people who have lost their limbs for could be diabetes or any other health related incident, you have the highest amount of black amputees in the nation. You have the highest land theft. Talking about coastal lands worth billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, just taken away. Eminent domain and any other kind of tool or mechanism used to take land away. Out of the homeless children in the state, 69% of them are black. You live in the food and healthcare desert. That if you don't have transportation, it's hard for you to get fresh fruits and vegetables. It's hard for you to get decent and adequate healthcare, which is kind of, a catch-22, because what group of people in this country have the lowest life expectancy and also the highest incidences of medical malpractice? You guessed it. So when you say healthcare desert, it's like, okay. And 61% of the people in your district, of a mostly black district, live in poverty. But you still vote this dude in. You voted this guy back in office. This is your district. And you voted that person back into office. That's self-sabotage. That's self-sabotage. In the meantime, he was able to get 20 acres for the Catawba Indians. There were literally no Catawba Indians in his district. And actually, most of them are in another state, in a neighboring state, not even in the state that he's in. 20 acres. You can develop that, you can sell that, you can split it up. There's so much you can do with that. And for those who don't really know their history, look up the history of the Catawba Indians. But this gentleman's also looking and pushing to make Lift Every Voice a national hymn. Poorest district, 69% of homeless children are black, 61% are in poverty, highest eviction rates, and this is what you're doing with the average income based on the demographics here, and look where the blacks are, and this is what you're doing right here. So you take this as a national conversation, but let's overlay it in Springfield. You had some events going on this weekend. Nat syndrome. And that's what they're waiting. That's what they're expecting. And you're just giving it to this dude. Just giving it to him. He should not be invited to any events. If there's a black event, or an event with black folks, or in the black community, this person should not be there. Period. And you should look at the other elected officials that show up and sit in the front row or sit right next to him. They shouldn't be there either. You don't invite that crazy cousin who breaks into houses and steals. You don't invite him to the cookout. You don't invite that Boy Scout captain who has had some issues. You keep him out of the cookout. You keep him away from the kids. You don't invite your side piece. I'm dumbing it down. World Star Basic right now to the cookout. Your wife is there. If you're in a relationship and your spouse or significant other keeps cheating on you, and you keep taking that person back, and they keep telling you they're not going to cheat on you anymore, and you keep catching them cheating on you, and you keep taking them back, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? That's us. That's the self-saboteur. That's the mascot. That's the dude who's the puppet sitting on the lap of the puppet master, saying all the things that he wants to say but he knows he can't say it, but he's going to have your blackface say it. And you're just so happy to be here, or you're so happy to be in the game, that you don't care that you're selling your community out wholesale for nothing. Nothing. If the education system in this city for your sons, your daughters, your grandsons, your granddaughters, your nieces, your nephews, your little cousins doesn't get better, that's your fault. If the police keep kicking down your doors in your neighborhoods and brutalizing you, that's your fault. You allow the Springfield Police Department just to keep videotaping and filming your kids, that's your fault. Because we come out and we vote. So that narrative of people sitting around saying, you got to come out and vote, you got to come out and vote. Those people that are saying that, go out in the office on your vote. You voted them into office. And they're turning around saying that your vote doesn't count. And you voted them into office. If the black business community keeps on dying on the vine in this city and keeps on being attacked in this city by code enforcement, I remember a video that surfaced, oh my goodness, before the pandemic, of a restaurant on Sumner Ave, and people sitting in there, and there were mice running around during the day, not at night, not when the lights are out, right in broad daylight. And they were forced to close. And they have other locations too. They were forced to close and remodel. Do you think I went back there and ate? Number one, I didn't eat there anyways. And they don't care about you. They were forced to remodel because of the public outrage of the video. And I still see people that look like me, and look like my sister or my cousins or my aunts and uncles walking into that place. Are you kidding me? Meanwhile, you got a new black restaurant open up somewhere and code enforcement's in there every other week, harassing them. But this restaurant over here was able to operate with impunity with the worst sanitation standards probably in the city with no problem. It took a video that went out and caught fire for code enforcement to even go in there and see what was going on. That's your fault. So for those people that sit around and co-sign this behavior because they're so scared, or they're intentionally being mascots, because don't get it wrong, not everybody's scared into going against their community. Some people just want to go in against their community because they want to get a bag, or they like to get that pat on the back. And you know who you are. And even as I'm saying this, I have probably a half a dozen or so people circling in my head. Even as I'm saying that. And then there's a ward up. There's a vote for an opening on city council for Ward 5, I think. Ward 5. And there's people looking to put their hat in the ring that don't have a platform, that don't have an agenda, that don't know anything about the ward. You know, I mean, there's some things, some quality of life issues that every ward struggles with that they would like to see improved. But there are some intrinsic and specific issues that face certain wards that other wards might not face. But if I ask them, hey, what's going on in your ward, they won't be able to give me a solid answer. And there's some people who are running because they just want their name in the paper. They don't care about the people. They don't care about what's going on in the ward. They just want to be part of something. And they were part of something, and they didn't do nothing when they were part of something. So they want to get in there and, hey, I'm city council, and not do anything. And now there's people talking about loyalty. When you galvanize a certain group of folks to vote for you and solidify your position with the black vote, and then you turn around and don't do anything for the black vote. You don't do anything for us. And there's no agenda towards us. There's no agenda for us. You don't get loyalty for that. Actually, your seat becomes vulnerable. Your seat becomes vulnerable. Think about that for a second. For all those folks out there looking for black loyalty that ain't doing nothing. And I'm not talking to the mascots, because they're going to do whatever master tells them to do. I'm talking about the educated black folks that are like, I see everybody else getting a bag. People who aren't even in this country getting a bag. People who aren't even naturalized citizens getting a bag. And people who have had a rough time over the past couple of years basically secure themselves as a protected class or protected citizenship in this country. Those black folks I'm talking to, they're like, yeah, enough is enough. But the challenge is there's a third of us that are on code, and maybe even a little bit higher. But let's just say there's a third of us on code. There's 2/3 that are self-saboteurs. But the 1/3 is powerful. And if we stay on code and keep on moving, we're going to get things changed. But you got to watch out for the 2/3, the self-saboteurs. And some of the brightest folks in our community, and some, God rest their soul, and there's 2 people in particular I want to shout out that saw this coming. Dr. Claude Anderson. He talked about economic castration. A couple weeks ago, I read all these laws that were written in the 1600s and 1700s to steal wealth from black folks, to keep them from wealth. He talks about economic castration. He also talks about politically insignificant. That's where we are right now. Because we keep doing the same old dumb stuff and letting the same old dumb people do the same old dumb things to us. And then when the heat comes on, they throw those same old dumb black talking heads like Al Sharpton and everybody in the Congressional Black Caucus to calm us down. But we're not being calm. We're not going to be calm. We want what's right and what's owed to us. Dr. Claude Anderson called it. Are we going to stand up? Because we are one of the most powerful voting blocs in this nation. And then it cascades down to region, into local. If you want to make a change in Springfield, you got to impact the local politics. And if this current administration gets voted back in, that's your fault. And we're going to have dinner and dialogues, and we're going to have conversations, and we're going to have community forums. And I'm putting folks on notice right now. You're not going to be invited to talk on any panel. We don't even want you showing up. We don't want you because you're insignificant and you treat us like we're insignificant. So go sit in the corner somewhere and wait for your puppet master to give you some more orders. As you're taking pictures with him begrudgingly, because you know the blowback, or you're trying to sidestep out of the picture, like trying to get out of the way of a Michael Jordan dunk, so you can say, "Well, he didn't dunk on me." Yeah, he dunked on you. Oh yeah, he got you to step and fetch it. You're there. You just by you pulling up and showing up, you gave that man power. You gave that person power. And we're not going to stand by and take that the Jeff Safrida clause. Join our organization. You won't have any votes. You won't make an impact, but you can roll your organization up into our larger organization. We said no thanks. we weren't falling for the okie doke, because rolling our organization up in that organization just would have neutered us, and it would have helped boost their income, because now they would have been writing for minority grants or people of color grants. That money would never have gotten to the black community. So no, we weren't going to play the game. But the question is, huh? But the next question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to fall for the okie doke or not?
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of WTCC Radio or Springfield Technical Community College.
We had to put that in there because I know I'm saying some stuff. And the next person, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, talked about the attack on black masculinity. There is no schism. Black males deal with a lot of the same things that black females do. Black females deal with the same things that black males do. But they keep trying to create a narrative to try to pit black males against black females. And it's easier to attack us because we've always been the face of whatever monster or boogeyman that they needed to get whatever laws passed or whatever political aspirations passed or whatever bills passed or to get in office passed. They use us as the face. Even now, when you talk about, there was something that was, I think the New York Post wrote about an Asian man being attacked in the subway. But that Asian man was attacked in the subway because he was trying to molest somebody on the subway. And some black men came to the aid of that person, held the Asian man until the cops came, and then he was arrested. But that's not what the headline said. Asian man accosted or beat up in the subway. And then if the article had 5 paragraphs, you would get to the details of the incident, maybe on the 5th paragraph. Who's reading that? Who's reading that far down? Who's reading that far down? We're in a society right now that we only read headlines and clickbait. The dumbing down of America. You can't be falling for the headlines. I always say, and I always will continue to say, do your research. Contest everything I'm saying here. Everything. But if you want to contest it, come with your receipts. I'm open for a debate, but I'm not open to some myopic, sycophantic gobble that's not based on fact or no receipts, but just based off emotion. Life is not a popularity competition. And I've noticed that in Springfield. I'm not from Springfield, but I don't need to be from Springfield. I've lived here long enough to see what's going on in Springfield. And I see 2/3 of the self-saboteurs walking amongst us, allowing the administration to continue to ignore us, harass us, berate us, arrest us, kill us, box us out of access of opportunities. I see it all the time. People say, oh, well, you know what? In 20, 30 years, it's going to be predominantly minority. Okay, so do you know about South Africa? 80-1 or more. 10% of the population is the Dutch-German ancestry. But 90% is black, South Africans. Who's controlling the country? So, what's your point? Economic castration, politically insignificant. The question is, do you as a person, do you as a man and as a woman consider yourself insignificant? If I was to ask you that question one-on-one to anybody, they'd be like, heck no, I'm not insignificant. How dare you even suggest that? But why are you acting like you're insignificant? Because when you're politically insignificant, you're economically castrated. Listen, there's things going on in the city that we can actually make a change. We can actually make a change for. But in order to make a change, you need to come out and you need to cast your vote. Not only cast your vote in the mayoral election, but judges, sheriffs, school committee, and there's some other offices too. Just because someone's got a black face or talking that blackness don't mean that they're about it. They're infiltrators. They're saboteurs. Saboteur by design is to fit in, to blend in, and then wreak havoc. And don't listen to words. Look at actions. And you've got enough body of work with folks to know who's about it and who's not about it. And if someone hits you, no, don't let anyone make you feel bad about your decision and how you want to move. Standing up for the black community is not being divisive. Saying it's being divisive, that's a saboteur. Oh, you need to be loyal. Loyal? What have you done to make me loyal? You're in a marriage, you expect your wife to be loyal, and your wife expects you to be loyal. You cheat on either one of those parties, cheat, that loyalty goes out the window. And if by chance you can survive the cheating, you need to prove yourself. And it takes a while to prove yourself. And you still never will get there 100%. You want loyalty? What are you doing to help me in my community? Not just me. You heard me say me, but you heard and my community. Because it's not just about me. And there's a lot of people that love to talk. And they talk for days. And there's some folks that are so eloquent with it. It's just like, oh, you just get mesmerized. Like preachers, that's one of the things. You get mesmerized by their words. Look at the actions. Look at the actions. Support black business. Support the black community. Support each other. And let's work together and let's all be on code. Let's all be on code. Make the decisions and make the choices that's not only going to help us and help our family, but also help our community. Thank you and good night.
I don't care if you bring down a statue, but can you codify a statute that ensures my right to vote, my right to vote, my right to vote, my right to vote?
Freedom made free when there's no truth. Freedom made free. They're selling me and they're selling you. Freedom made free when there's no truth. Freedom made free. They're selling me and they're selling you.
Ask me if I'm good. See, I'm saying I ain't fine. We're running out of truth like we're running out of time. Black leaders masquerading like coons, straight buffoons, plantation style. Instant smiles and quick to acquiesce what little space we have. Selling at our communities with our black families up for grabs. Straight to the auction block, they selling our souls. Holes for a system that never worked in our favor. Wasn't designed for us. Teaching and preaching in Jesus we trust while being betrayed. Played like pawns on a board in a chess game and we're losing on purpose. For no purpose at all. These are trying times and this new struggle is real. So ask me how I feel. I ain't never fine. We're running out of truth. It's like we're running out of time.
Freedom made free when there's no truth. Freedom made free. They're selling me and they're selling you. Freedom made when there's no truth. Freedom ain't free. They're selling me and they're selling you.
Everybody's stressing that the blessing is in the vote, but you never hear them promote getting involved and being in a position to be voted for. Never talking about the door to freedom being equity and not equality. So how do you talk about quality of life and saving lives without talking dollars and cents? See, what makes sense is economic development, new businesses, and a sound economic foundation. No nation was ever built on social service and government programs. So if you really give a damn, teacher, preacher, and politician, show the people the proof. We're running out of time like we're running out of truth, and we're watching you now with all of our eyes. We're waiting in the shadow to expose your lies. So don't be surprised when the people rise and leadership you'll replace. New day, new voice, new face of freedom.
Freedom ain't free when there's no truth. Freedom ain't free. They're selling me and they're selling you. Freedom ain't free when there's no truth. Freedom ain't free. They're selling me and they're selling you.
They just gonna have to be mad. Everybody can't be. Everybody can't be.
90.7 WTCC FM. My name is D. Moss. You are tuned to Monday Night Live. You just heard from my man Rob Jones with a portion of the show that we call Insight. We hope that y'all digging it. I know. Some of y'all a little pissed off at what he was saying. It feels like that sometimes. We really ain't trying to hurt nobody. We're trying to impart a little bit of information. And folks are just so sensitive. I got my brother Charles Stokes about to come on, but let me do this real quick.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of WTCC Radio or Springfield Technical Community College.
All right. So what's going on, good brother? Welcome back to Monday Night Live. It's been a while. How you been?
I'm doing well, brother Daryl and brother Rob. Good to see you brothers tonight.
Thank you. All right. So you got some things you want to get off your chest.
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate this, and I'm just gonna be brief. Brother Rob, you the opening of the show, you displayed that format. I wish you would have left it up. It was very well done, and it highlighted a lot of the things that are happening. And so I just want to be very brief and talk about the elephant in the room, Dominic Sarno. And I want to be very careful. I'm not here to call out no names or nothing like that, but I'm here to state some facts that I want people to think about, right? And so, excuse me?
Go ahead, shoot with the facts, man.
Okay. As we all know, Juneteenth just came around, and we celebrated Juneteenth, and it was some wonderful things happening. I was on the grind, so I wasn't able to be at the flag raising, but I was getting calls that I should have been there because of what was allowed to take place with this mayor stating all the wonderful things that he has done for Black people. So, since 2007, there's been 100 unsolved homicides of Black and Puerto Rican residents. Half of those residents have been Black men, right? Since Dominic Sarno has been in office, the Department of Justice came down in 2018 with a consent decree because his police department, the narcotics division, was beating up on residents when arresting them. You don't come into a consent decree because you've been doing a wonderful job, right? So we have also Dominic Sarno, after the young Puerto Rican student was beat up in Commerce, had cameras in our school system to make sure that they got access to the footage first. As of 2018, there are recorded 19,495 incorporated cities, towns, and municipalities in the United States of America. Out of the 65 most deadliest cities in the country to live in, Springfield, Massachusetts ranks 54th, a murder rate of 12.9%, 12.96% of 100,000, so 13 murders a year. And the leading cause are gun violence. January the 9th of 2022, a Black man with mental health issues was killed in front of his grandmother. And before an investigation could take place, Dominic Sarno was on the air saying that that killing was a justifiable killing. Not only that, he has been disrespectful to City Councilwoman Tracy Whitfield. He's been disrespectful to the overall mothers and families who have lost loved ones to violence here in the city. And he has not done anything to show the Black community that he has, like you stated, Rob, so eloquently, an agenda in place that will put the city at ease. The number one charter of a mayor, as you guys well know, is public safety. Most of the public is safe except for Black people here in the city of Springfield. So for him to be able to come up to a Juneteenth celebration on a historical site, right? Let's take this into consideration. The Primus Mason Square was owned by a African man. The city of Springfield was sold, downtown Springfield, by Paul Mason. And yet you have Dominic Sarno at a Juneteenth celebration, at the raising of a flag, espousing all the good things that he has done for the Black community and for the Black community, and particularly those elected officials who invite him into the community, those pastors and preachers and ministers of mosque allow him into this community to say these things, when all of those facts I've just articulated are killing the Black community, violating the Black community's human rights, and Black people in this city, and particularly the elected officials, the pastors that he calls out, those people who have stakeholders in the community. He calls them out, they come out, they smile and take pictures with him, they laugh, they joke.
Brother Stokes.
Yes.
Whose fault is that?
Well, here's what I.
No, I just want to get down to the crux of the matter.
I don't know to say whose fault it is. What I do know is this: I don't know whose fault it is, but I do know that relationships with the mayor, for instance, when you have a nonprofit organization receive $500,000 in ARPA money, right? And we know that organization does nothing that values $500,000 in the Black community. When you have people who get funding to their various programs from the mayor, they are beholden to him, and so they make decisions that influence the community based upon those relationships. So,
that's why we got to make the change. Listen, if you're raising chickens and you got a friend that's a fox, are you going to invite him over to your house?
No, sir.
So when I ask whose fault is it, it's the people's fault for voting this dude in, number one. You can agree to disagree with me, but it's the people's fault. but it's also those people who are standing up, those politicians and ministers and preachers and all that other stuff, allowing themselves to be mascots. No. Hey, I'm going to do this thing. No. Because no other group in the country, in the region, in the city will allow to get dumped on like that. No other group. And I can cite some examples, but I don't want the FCC to kind of come down on us. But nobody's going to allow that. Why are we allowing it? So I mean, you've been on the show many times, and you've dropped all kinds of examples. And I didn't know about the crime things that you were talking about. So that was great. Thank you for that. But it's the people. So if we want to make a change, we need to make a change at the grassroots, ground level, galvanize folks, get people who want registered to vote. When a selection comes up, get them out. But also hold the other cats who are allowing them to be mascots accountable. Put them on the island. Everybody can't be down with the cause, but we need to identify those who ain't, corral them, push them to the corner.
Here's what happens with that, particularly in the city of Springfield. You have a lot of relationships. You have a lot of this is so devastating because I took myself out of the view last week and I sat back and I watched the festive activities, right? And you look at the different dynamics of relationships here in the city of Springfield. It's so peculiar, right? You have some people who say they're not with him. I know particularly, and I'm trying to be careful here on the air. I'm really trying to be careful. But you cannot be sucking on the phallus of white supremacy. These people are like bedwenches and broke buck Negroes, right? They sing, they laugh, they have what you have
right in these cats.
Well, no. He's saying. I just want to hear what he's saying.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead. Finish that.
You have these people, right, who the mayor can call out, right, and they stand in front of the community. And for a lot of the people in the community, there are a lot of black women, and some black women and some black men that have personalities in the city of Springfield, that have people duped into believing because of those peculiar relationships. It's like, for instance, if I call them out, the friends and associates that they have with one another, they mute me out. They mute those of us who are out. We're either complaining, we're either airing out dirty laundry, we're either, there's something wrong with us for stating the fact that we live in the 54th most deadliest city in America. And to ask to have that addressed, it goes back, well, what are you doing to make a difference? And so here you are, a public official, and I've noticed this we had a national conversation on gun violence all over the country. The only place that I've noticed in America that wasn't having these conversations is here in the city of Springfield by the elected officials, except for two whom I've been working with. And the organizations that we've been working with have been interested in this. And so,
whose responsibility is it to facilitate those conversations?
Some of them feelings are so hurt, D, that they don't want to have the conversations.
When you say they, who's they?
Okay, for instance, half of the murders that are unsolved in the city of Springfield is in 11th Hampton District and Ward 4, right? Mm-hmm. We know who is supposed to be the leader of, not the leader, but facilitating the well-being of that community in Ward 4. Yet, state representative of that area and the city councilor of that area, we have emailed them, we have talked to them, we sent solutions out, and they won't answer to the calls. So I don't know.
Leadership, when it comes down to these conversations, I mean, we've held similar conversations at AIC. We couldn't get, I mean, we'd have over 200 plus people, but we couldn't get any of those folks that we typically call leaders or spokespersons to come out and participate in those conversations. We had anatomy of a protest. UMass was jam-packed. Springfield proper in terms of everybody. We had half the hill up in there, jam-packed. We've had conversations on what is black leadership. We had conversations on who to vote for, what to vote for, why to vote. Jam-packed. So when I ask you who's responsible, I mean, I've been in Springfield since 1994. I remember packing out, Martin Luther King. I don't know if you remember back then. I don't know if you was around, but we packed out the gym. Packed it out. We had caskets in front. We addressed all those issues. I guess my thing is, and it's not really directed to you, Brother Stokes. It's really addressing, to any of the listeners, anybody who may chime in. The responsibility and the onus is on us. I look at like the small conversations that I facilitate over at Pamusa. I ain't no elected official. I would never be an elected official. But as a black man, as a black father, as a black friend, a black mentor, black role model, I feel like the onus is on me to make sure that I create opportunities to educate as many people as we can. Newspaper, for instance, narrative is everything. If you send me a release, I'll get it in the paper, or I'll get it on the site. The bottom line is we keep waiting for a Superman. That ain't coming. Keep it 100. We're waiting on a Superman. I don't give you if you can throw black paint on him and say it's a black man. It doesn't matter. We're waiting on a Superman. That just ain't coming. So I dig everything both of y'all are saying. And when you say, who's responsible? The people. We're the people. As Fred Hampton once said, all power to the people. The people create movement. We got folks, I mean, we can complain about elected officials, but when has an elected official, city councilors, their sole responsibility is providing fiscal oversight for the city. In other words, monitoring the mayor's budget. The other thing is overseeing zoning and ordinance. That has nothing to do with gang violence. It has nothing to do with quality of life. It has nothing to do with economic development. It has nothing to do with code enforcement. It has nothing to do with all that. It's zoning and what's the other? Zoning and ordinance, and then fiscal oversight to make sure there's a system of checks and balances as it pertains to the city's budget. So we're looking for city councilors to do what we should be doing. Anybody can organize and create an audience. I had a brother on Facebook. I just had to block him because the dude kept coming at me about, leaders. Brother, I'm not a leader. I'm just a black father. I have 2 kids who live dead smack in the heart. They live on King Street, dead smack in the heart of Basin Square. So as a father, what do? You try and create opportunities to educate your community. You're going to create awareness with some of them are just going to ignore it. So everything we're saying, I think the question really, Brother Stokes and Rob, is kind of like, what, we should be dialoguing on what the solutions are. We know that there's always going to be, mascots who going to bring, it's so ironic. When I worked for the mayor, everybody hated the mayor. I caught slack from every damn body because everybody couldn't stand him. 2 years later, everybody loves him, and they're inviting him to every cookout you could possibly think of. Everybody. I'm just saying. They were trying to cancel him. Now everybody loves him. I'm trying to figure it out. So with our people, I think we need to figure out this term. Somebody questioned my loyalty, the elected official, and I'm like, nah, brother, I'm still loyal to you, but doesn't mean you're not going to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
It's like we have to figure out collective, what does loyalty mean? Who do we vote for and why do we vote for them? Who are we putting in position to represent us? If Rob decides he want to run, it doesn't necessarily mean that he represents me. Just because he got brown skin don't mean that I have to be loyal to him. The bottom line, it's about accountability. So when we talk about those murders, the community should have been in an uproar when the little white kid got killed at Blue Fusion. Dominic and the police department turned this city upside down. But 2 weeks prior, we lost a young brother on James Street. Not James Street.
James, I remember.
They automatically assumed it was gang violence. Come to find out, this kid wasn't in no gang. So, but nobody said anything. So it really boils down to how do we educate our folks to stop looking to downtown for leadership. They make it really clear. When they want to communicate, all of them, when they want to communicate with us, they find the black spokesperson or the black, influential leader or the black reverend or the black, political. Nah, man, they don't speak for the people. The person who can get 200 people in a room just by asking people to come out, people come out because they trust that particular person's body of work. Mm-hmm. That means you have a reputation for getting it done, not compromising your integrity, not compromising your cultural integrity. So I hear everything y'all saying, but the question is, how do we resolve that? We're having a public conversation. It really should be a private conversation in the room as we strategize, but it's public now, so let's throw it out there. How do we resolve that? Every time we bring somebody up from downtown who ain't doing due diligence, how do we convince the people, listen, man, these people, the organizers can bring who they want in. That's their business. They put their blood, sweat, and tears into events. And I say, kudos, man, for, being assertive. There was a time when our elected officials didn't do anything. So they doing it. They bringing these people up from downtown. It's like, if, Tyrone Johnson is up speaking, we listening. Richard Johnson is speaking, we listening. They bring, one of those folks from downtown who ain't working on our behalf. We know they're working contrary to everything we're doing. Man, we got to condition our people or program our people just turn their back. So what they do, I've seen it done. They did it in New York. The police officers did this to the mayor. Remember in New York, all the police officers turn your back. We have to stop giving, passes to the cookout.
Turn your back or leave.
My man gonna get mad at me for saying it on the air, but somebody said Jesse, as far as I'm concerned, Jesse Letterman is black. No, Jesse Letterman ain't black. Jesse Letterman hasn't done a damn thing as a city councilor. We always go after the black electeds. No, let's look at these white dudes. Jesse Letterman has done absolutely nothing. Nothing. Stand up with during the Black Lives Matter protest. He showed up the march. It was like a public promotional campaign for him. Mm. He hasn't, pushed for anything downtown studio. I haven't seen him support Tracy once. Not once. So how does this dude get black man status?
That's just ridiculous.
We got Tim Allen, white city councilor, calling black city councilors, telling them, we don't want you to talk about that anymore. It's kind of like it was told to me directly from the councilors. He's calling black councilors, telling we don't want you to say this. So we don't want. Who the hell is you to tell another city councilor?
Grown person.
Folks walking around with law degrees, master's degrees. Folks, black folks. How is this dude to call them up and be like, I don't want you. We don't want you to talk. Who?
Well, it tells you what they think of.
Those are the folks that we need to catch. And the bottom line is when we get folks from our community who stand up for us downtown, folks need to stand up with them. So if we want respect, we got to respect ourselves first. And we got to shut down downtown, only invite them folks up when we want them to come.
Yeah.
And if we're not getting the message across, they're going to keep coming.
Well, I think that has to do with, I think that really has to do with, again, the black allies of white supremacy, in this case, Dominic Sarno. They invite him to the community to have these outings, right?
But we don't have to show up.
Hold on. If you say something against him, his black allies will confront you right there saying, no, this ain't the time for this. They will stand. I've had it happen to me, brothers. They will stand in front of you and tell you to be quiet because this is not the time. Now, if it's a black woman and you raise your voice at her as a black man, you become a misogynist. If it's a gay person and you raise your voice at them that's black, now you're homophobic, you're angry. And so the fight to get the black allies out of the way, that's one of the prongs to it. The other thing that we've been doing and why I've been quiet over the last 2 months is really working on the grounds. Picking out community areas, going door to door, knocking on the doors, talking to the community, highlighting, like when
to yourself, bro. You don't need to be letting people know your plans.
Well, here's what I do know.
Okay.
In the city of Springfield, nothing's a secret, right? You may think, Rob, and you may think, Brother Darryl, that some of the people who are closest to you, who you've had a loving relationship with over 20 years, how Springfield works, and I know is brothers like us don't have any real friends or allies. They keep you close enough so you can't destroy them. So for me, none of them are my friends. I've dissolved 40-year relationships with Bud Williams. I just don't know how to. Cephas Jackson, all of them, George Bruce, we no longer have conversations because I've recognized that they are enemies of the community. And when I'm out in the community talking to people, I let them know, like, these people are truly enemies to the welfare of the Black community, period. And so now it's about galvanizing those people who are dissatisfied. Our goal is not even city council. It's really for 2023 to remove Sarno out of office. But we've been engaging in conversations with the community at Blunt Park, Forest Park, wherever we're at, highlighting who the enemies are, highlighting who their allies are. This is how confused we are.
Can I interject?
We have 4 people running for Ward 5 that are Black. 1 white lady. The Blacks are going to split up their votes. The white woman is going to wind up, this is just my thoughts, she's going to wind up in the primary with the other Black person that's going to win. Because as you said, Rob, these part-time jobs on city council lead to positions somewhere else in the city for a private corporation. They are positioning themselves for pennies at the expense of the Black community. That's just the way it is here.
Well, can I just say, a couple of years back, they said the same thing when Calvin McFadden ran for school committee against Denise Hurst. And, the Hurst family was, going crazy. Why is he running? We're going to split the vote. Antoinette Peppier get in. Not going to work. Come to find out, both of them, Denise Hurst and Calvin McFadden, both got in. They were both elected. I think the thing is, when it comes down to the democratic process, it simply means that, I'm telling, the person I've been working with, like, listen, man, it just means it doesn't matter who your opposition is. You got to get out there and work and get your votes up. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily have to split our votes, but the bottom line is, I think our people have gotten to the point where they're not just voting for anybody just because you run. One of the candidates have ran about 5 times already. So I think folks, I know me as a voter, I'm looking for somebody with integrity. Some of the folks that I talk to, they're like, man, I'm looking for somebody who's been there, who's worked with kids, who's been visible in the community. And I think we have to teach our people how to vote. I'm not worried about this girl walking up in there and taking that spot. I'm worried about making sure that we do the job to make sure we get out more votes. For a ward race, you only need, if you get 1,000 votes, you're locking down anything, anywhere. You get 500 votes, you're going to win. So I'm telling people, if you really want to win, get out there and just lock in your 500 votes. Because white voters in Springfield have voted for Black candidates. LaTonya Naylor, Tracy constantly gets in there, not just through the Black vote, but she gets a myriad of folks. So we got to do due diligence. So I dig what you're saying, but I think history has proven when we get out there and we're about our business, we get our candidates in. So it's been split before, but we still managed to bring out enough. We have one of the hardest voting blocks in the city. The other piece is, I think when you said we have to get, you're down in the community doing that work, grassroots, whether you're working class, underclass, upper class folks, it don't matter. As long as we talking to our folks and we educating them, I think that's what the work is. And I think people get away from that. I think Springfield, I've been here since '94. It's the only town I know where, when I was in New Haven, when grassroots is all about knocking on doors. We were banging on doors, all the projects, all the middle class black neighborhoods. We banging on doors. We're talking to people. We're passing out flyers. Here, we get in. We're looking at people with titles. It's weird because we're constantly looking at people who have a title and assuming they're leaders. When I work downtown, people are like, you're one of the leaders. No, brother, I ain't your leader. I have a job. But my commitment will always be to the community. It doesn't matter what I do. It's not the title, it's that body of work. It's your commitment to your community. Everybody else has a commitment to their community first, and then the job. We're the only ones we don't. Then we get caught up in the distractions, and it messes us up. It's those distractions that are killing us. We spend more time crashing black folks when it's kind of like, who's holding Mike Fenton accountable? Who's holding Tim Allen accountable? Who's holding, what's that, the woman down there, the white lady? Who's
Hillary Walsh?
Yeah, state reps. Angelo Pupperlane did nothing for the black community in 20 years. He's been a state rep. Nobody brings his name up. Carlos comes to every show. I'm a black Puerto Rican. I'm black too. No, brother, you're not. You have no interest, no concern, no commitment to the black community. You don't get that pass.
We can give you some examples of that too.
People accountable on that. But go ahead, Rob. Stokes always gets me riled up. Go ahead.
So when you talked about the distractions, going back to what Stokes said, I had a conversation with somebody, and I know that person can't stand me now because they were talking about something about Buffalo, and I'm not going to get into the details, but I just turned around and walked away from them. If you got people saying all this stuff, shh, this ain't the place, yo, turn around and walk away from them. That group of mascots, it's the same people. So as you're saying it, I'm like, okay, I can just imagine who it is. Imagine the impact when you've got the mayor showing up at an event and he's got his black mascots there, and then nobody shows up.
Juneteenth, when we celebrating, my father's grandfather was a slave. Real talk. He talked about sitting on his knee. He talked about sitting on his great-grandfather's knee. Former slaves. My dad was born in the early 1920s. So we're talking about the son of a man who sat on his grandfather's knee, his great-grandfather's knee. And we celebrating the fact that these folks are no longer providing free labor for this country, no longer slaves. And we bring this dude who just no more than 3-4 years ago brought back a bunch of cops who were covering for other cops who beat the crap out of black men for being in a restaurant. You would think this is Mississippi.
Yeah.
And he tried to cover it up. There's so many things. A black man makes a comment online. They send a bunch of police cars to the house to grab his guns and his license to carry.
Yep.
This is the mayor. Everybody has. It's so crazy because cats was going to cancel him 2 years ago. Now everybody love him. And I'm confused. People jumping in pictures. I'm with the mayor. Somebody told me, I thought he was cool. Cool how? Because he had. When he first got in office, it was me, Denise, Carolyn, Azelle. He had a bunch of black folks. Look at his office now. That dude turned into Trump in just a matter of time before these folks showed their true faces.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Meriden. We had Klan. We knew up front, man, these cats, we were cool. We ain't even really friendly. We're just cool, but we'll never be friends. Because I know at the end of the day, you don't have my best interest at heart. You talk about, as you talk about, mascots and coons and all that stuff, sometimes we have to look at the value that people bring to the table. Cephas Jackson, I will always put my heart behind him because whenever I need that brother, he's always right there. I've never done nothing for him. I'm just going to throw that out there. Bud Williams, brother, because just on the strength of the fact that you're black, I'm still going to look out for you whenever I can. But he's the same dude. I have no friends. He told me, well, I'm a double-edged sword.
You see, and that's the.
Me, you cut both ways. Well, damn real I do. Thank you for telling me I have integrity. I'm swinging at anybody.
And what's so devastating is, and what's hurtful, and I mean really, really hurtful is, like, you highlight all of these facts around Dominic Sarno and what he has done. And then you have candidates who are wanting to be elected into office with pictures with him. It confuses me because if you say you are for black people and you love black people, but the mayor is okay with you because he hasn't done anything to you or against you, This is disgusting behavior.
It's cognitive dissonance.
It's harmful. And the thing is, brothers, and what we pay close attention to is like the impact that it's going. Like Daryl got a daughter, I got a daughter, and I wouldn't invite my daughter into an area, or I wouldn't do anything to Daryl's daughter that I wouldn't want done to mine. And so this is bigger than all of us, and to have this type of mentality, and we still want to love these people and do for them and try to understand what they're doing. And I really believe that conflict is the biggest impediment to our moving forward. Because
what did Harriet Tubman say? I freed hundreds, then I could have freed hundreds more if only they had realized that they was.
And Stokes, what you're doing in the grassroots stuff, that's the panacea. That's the cure-all. Getting out there, knocking on the doors, educating people with the facts.
It's not just me, though. I just want to be clear. It's not just me.
I get you. I get you. But you're talking. So your team, your group, your folks, knocking on the doors, educating people, focusing on solutions. That's where the work is. That's the cure-all. That's the panacea. The people who are distracting, you're done having those conversations with those people.
Yeah,
turn your back and don't even entertain them.
Yeah, that's over. I don't like I've had conversations with them all. Like I always express, I've been around here 50 plus years, had some wonderful relationships, but it has gotten to the point with me where I'm so disgusted and appalled, right, that I just don't have any feelings and emotions. I pretend like they're dead, man, because for all the corruption and all the stuff that goes on, and it is personal because, like, the impact of those people had an impact on my life and other people's lives that came through this city. And now we see them for who they are. And what we see now, Daryl and Rob, is there's a new group of people who are Black, who are running for office, right? Mm-hmm. Taking on the same mannerisms as the old guard, the same disposition, some of them groomed by these people, and now they're out front. And it's like, damn, you really gonna do this?
But here's the deal. It's like an ugly person looking into the mirror and not realizing they're ugly. Beauty like truth lies solely in the eyes of the beholders. We have people who are running who just by virtue of the color of their skin, they feel like, yo, I know I'm Black. Some of these same people have called me a sellout back in the day, and I know you know me since college. I bleed Black for my people, period. Yeah. So I look at it like this. I meet people where they're at. I do know, as Gary Porter always says, until folks decolonize their mind, they're always thinking the best interest of the oppressor. And I don't think Gary could have said any truer words. He said, until people decolonize their minds, they will always think in the best interest of the oppressor. So there are people who look at Dominic and the rest of them and feel like, well, I can't say that about them. I can't do that. I had a sister who told me, you're obsessed with him. I'm not obsessed with him. I don't think about that dude, but when I'm out organizing, I'm in front of my community, I'm talking about him, Richard Neal, Mike Fitton, Tim Allen. I'm talking about all of them.
Who's his chief of staff?
So Tommy Ash, all of them. So obsessed? No, I'm back to where I was before I went there. Anybody who knew me before I started working there, this is me. So my thing is, when it comes down to our people, I feel like I have to make, because I love my people, I got to meet everybody where they're at. I have family members who have been in and out of jail, family members who done smoked crack, family members who done all types of atrocious things. They're my family. And when I see them, it's like putting them on the scale. There's the good outweigh the bad. I've done the game work, did the game work in the past. I did the MLK stuff. I did it in New Haven. My thing is, there are people that folks have described in the most heinous terms, and I'm gonna tell you, these are the same folks. If I leave my key in the door out in the middle of the hood, no matter what hood it is, they bring me my keys and be like, "Yo, Mr. D, come on, man, you're gonna get your car stolen." If I break down, "Yo, D, you good? You need gas money?" These are the same people that have my back. So I look at people for the value that they bring. We may not have the same agendas. We may not have the same focus or the same priorities. My priority may be strictly, economic development and making sure that that we receive equity unequivocally across the board, from the sound of our voices to the economic impact and how it impacts us on a personal and financial basis. Whereas yours might be, I just want to deal with gang violence. Because I'm not looking at the gang violence, it doesn't mean that I don't care about these young brothers on the street. Maybe my agenda is, when you lift people up from poverty, they begin to see the world differently. I remember Ruth Loving used to always get on me, "You never think about the seniors." Miss Loving, I can't think about the seniors and think about the young people at the same time. I have to choose a path, and I have to focus on it so I can do the best I can. So I look at the Buddy Williams of the day. I look at the era that he's from, and I go, "What you gonna do?" I look at the people that some of these folks have raised. They're products of their parents' household. They're products of the community and the circles that their parents were involved in. And I just go, you know what? I got to meet them where they're at. And hopefully we can bring them back to the center. Our job is to educate. We have to uplift and educate folks before they begin to see the world. There was a time, Brother Stokes and Rob, when none of us seen the world the way that we do now. Somebody met you where you was at and had enough patience to wait for y'all to get to the point where we were all conscious about, the future of Black folks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, one of the things that I think about often when these types of scenarios are people met me where I was at, right?
Yep.
When I was crack addicted, heroin addicted, messed up in the streets, making those choices and decisions. We're talking about people, brothers, that are talking about they are Delta, Sigma, sorority, they're Black Lives Matter. We're not talking about people who are meeting them, who are going through something because of...
No. I'm not talking about, hold on. Let me stop you right there. I ain't talking about them boule middle class folks. I'm not talking about, and let me just say for the record, because a lot of people, I've heard someone imply that before. I gotta check it. Like, if I say something, I'm talking about folks on the street level. Y'all ain't walked the streets of Berkeley. Y'all ain't walked through Ashton Street projects. You did Springfield. We had our own. But no, I'm talking about people, period. Whether it was the dude who lived down the street, the cat who walked into the local bodega at the same time you walking in. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Because I
got a high school diploma like the rest of y'all.
Oh, I know that, D. No, D, I know that. No, I'm talking about these people.
Because folks, they think, I say something, they always think I'm talking about these upper middle class folks. Nah, I ain't talking about them.
The boule.
Nah, I'm talking about the same.
The boule, okay.
But in different cities. Go ahead.
No, because I'm oftentimes, but when I be hearing like I'm talking about here's I'm talking about people, man, who pretending that they got good sense, pretending like Black lives really matter to them, pretending this, right? And then you embrace them only to find out they were just saying that to get what they want to get, but their lives are not committed to the uplifting of our people. And so when you got example after example of the same people doing the same things over and over again, but winking that I'm for Black people, but you're really not about that life. Those are hypocrites, and they are in the way of progress. That's coming from Brother Charles. And how do we get them out of the way, along with educating?
Let me tell you why. When we started the association, we couldn't get you, we couldn't get no black people on board the Association of Black Business and Professionals. Nobody would mess with it. The elected officials, street level folks, the professional class, nobody. So what you do is you build it. Mm-hmm. By the time we were done, we had over 300 black. We had over 300 people up in the MGM ballroom. Every time we had a workshop or a forum, the rooms were jam packed. You go direct. The people you worry about are the people in the community. I ain't gotta move you out the way. Even back in the day, you always tell that funny story about how when you first came home, cats wasn't feeling me. I wasn't asking people for permission to be in your town to work with your kids. You know what I mean? This brother ain't from here neither. You don't ask for permission to do what you do. Let them know they can stay there all day long. They're just like white folks. I ain't asking you for no permission. Brother Stokes, I get with you. We do what we do. We just got to find ways to make it happen and get to the point where people start coordinating schedules. The problem is, when it comes down to doing work to keep, Black Lives Mattering, there's so much work that got to get done. The hard part is making sure that everybody's paths will align so that we can find ways of working together. And, because we are on different channels and, I'd say 365 roads to freedom, because we're on 3 different roads, people assume that we can't work together or your level of commitment ain't the same as mine because I'm doing this and you're not. No, what we should be saying is, what exactly are you doing? We're putting together this smorgasbord, all types of food. What are you actually bringing a meal to the table, or are you coming with an empty bottle? Are you coming with Tupperware? Are you bringing food? What are you bringing? And I think that's the question we should be asking people. I would never question. I'm not taking it personal. I'm just talking in general, brother. I think we got to start seeing our folks for the value that they bring to the table, to make sure that we get this job done.
Or the value that they're not bringing to the table. See, there's 2 ways. Either they're bringing value or they're not bringing value.
But who's defining it?
Who's
defining the value that they're bringing to the table?
Okay, I'm going to answer the question.
Okay.
If you have an assignment to do and you're not doing your assignment that you're supposed to be doing, then by that declaration alone makes you unqualified for the position you say you hold. So if you are a person and you're running for office and the number 1 cause of death and you're ranked 54th in the country as the worst place to live, and you're supposed to be doing a job to make sure that's not happening, and you're not fulfilling that obligation, that makes you not capable of holding that position. It's not like you're saying who has the value. You have an assignment. You have not qualified yourself to do the assignment.
If we're talking elected officials, I had a brother no more than 2 days ago. A brother came at me because I wasn't talking nationality. As far as he's concerned, I failed the assignment. And looking at all the comments on my thread, basically, dude was like, you false leaders. I'm like, brother, I'm not your leader. So this is just 2 days ago. So the assignment to him is this. The assignment to me is this. As far as he's concerned, if he was on the show right now, he'd be calling me all kind of sellouts and coons. And I'm just like, well, brother, what are you talking about? We should be talking nationality. I get that. But that's not my focus. So when we talk about assignments, who's divvying out the assignments? My personal mission is this. If I don't align with your mission, then I'm failing the overall assignment. Am I right or wrong?
No, sir. What I'm saying is we have empirical information in front of us.
Yep.
That our city is unsafe to live in. The facts of that is 4 young men with a bunch of guns running down College Street. 2 young men, and I'm just saying these, shot on Mass Ave, right? Yep. Now, the number 1 duty of the mayor and the elected officials is public safety. The public safety of the Black community is not being looked out for. And there are people who we know who say they are looking out for the black community.
Okay.
When the black community is not being safe and guns and bullets are flying around, that says you're not doing the assignment. It's not passing judgment. It's facts. The community isn't safe. What are you going to do? And if you're not doing anything, then you should be held accountable.
You're right. We're on two different pages. See, you're talking elected officials. I'm not. I'm saying we are all responsible. I remember when I worked downtown, somebody would get shot and they'd be like, such and such was killed at 2 a.m. Where was the mayor? Well, he wasn't going to be at your house making sure that your son was tucked safely in his bed. He wasn't going to be out there catching a bullet when he has his own daughters at home. And I ain't defending that dude. I agree. He needs to be removed because his focus is off when it comes to our community. If he ain't working in our interest, then you don't need to represent us. So I'm not defending him. Let me be real clear to all of our listeners. But when people used to say that to me, they get mad when I respond to that. I'm like, well, our folks should be out there making sure that our streets are safe. Mm-hmm. First question is, where were their parents? Where were the auntie, the uncle? Where's that we have 1 million AAU coaches who talk about the great work they're doing as basketball coaches. Where they at? All y'all 5A football coaches and all these other leagues, where y'all at? Because they have more influence with these kids than any elected official in terms of keeping the streets safe. And, I argue that point forever. Where y'all at? When it comes down to elected officials, I agree with you 100%. We got to hire folk. We got to make sure, I ain't going to say vote. We have to hire people who are going to represent us. But the first thing we need to do is acknowledge that we have one of the strongest voting blocks in the city. Mm-hmm. We still have elected. This is my problem with some of the black elected officials. We have one sister who's always saying that we don't vote. But we voted for you every election, and every election you've gotten in. So the first thing we need to do is acknowledge the capacity that we have. We have to acknowledge our strength. I don't believe in working from a deficits model. We always talk about the worst part about our community. When it comes down to the safest, I would like to believe that my son, 25, lives in a group, born and raised in Springfield, is safe. Never been shot at, never been accosted, never been assaulted. So even the whole perception of safety, we have to make sure we break that down in a way so we can actually create solvable solutions. How do we reach these young folks? How do we reach their families? How do we reach their little siblings and make sure they don't follow suit? Those are the conversations we need to have. And there's not a single mayor, I don't care if the mayor is black, white, blue, or brown, he ain't going to be able to address that issue if we don't set the tone and the pace for that conversation. We're on the same page. I just think we're on different steps.
Okay, no problem. Well, I think that overall, when you look at who is out here in our, like, there's a lot of people that say they're out here in the streets. And I'm gonna tell you something, brothers. I don't see them, but I hear them all over everywhere saying where they at and what they're doing. And
man, I got like 5 people going through my head right now as you're saying that. Like,
and then when I say
no, say that one more time.
Like when there are people, like, I'm in the streets every day. I'm in the streets every day in some of the most volatile areas in this city, right? And then I hear people saying they're out there. And I'm telling you, they're not out there. They're not on the streets, man. Listen, there's only about 4 of us that are on the streets every day trying to make lives of people better. Man, I got so many text messages. Man, I got so much stuff going on, right? And when I say, man, that there are people in this community that I could have exposed that are black, Daryl, you know what I'm talking about? And I just didn't say a word, right? Mm-hmm. Of the underhandedness of their behavior, the deceitfulness of their behavior. And I haven't said a word. I have documentation of the underhandedness that so-called black reputable people that we know and love who have undermined the black community, right?
Let me ask you this. Why are they even important enough to even, all right, here's the deal.
I'm gonna tell you why.
doing work in our community, we should be problem solvers. Why are they even important enough for
I'm
us
gonna tell you why they're important. I'm gonna tell you why they're important. Because these people are allies to white supremacy. And so as long as they are in the way of the master, Malcolm says, how many of you willing to kill for your freedom? Only 25 raised their hand. He said, then you're going to have to kill those of these in the room because they're going to fight you the hardest.
But you know what's crazy?
So,
go ahead, finish.
So when you ask why they're important, because they smile in your face, my face, the community face, and behind our backs, they are detriments to the community. The worst thing you want to be around, Brother Darrell, to me, is a hypocrite. One who's in your face. So for me, for Charles Stokes' job, and this is my assignment, I'm going to call them out. I'm going to expose them. As long as I have breath to breathe, they are just much as my enemy as Dominic Sarno.
But what you're telling me is you really have no interest in going after the white power structure, because what you want to do is you want to keep black people fighting each other.
No.
Let me finish my thought. Then you can respond. We spend so much time, which is why I say on this show, I tell everybody up front, if you're gonna come on and dog black people, this ain't the show for it. I don't dog black people publicly. I ain't gonna do it in the newspaper, and I'm gonna tell you why. I have other enemies to worry about. My problem is the master. I can care less about the coon that's sitting with him. And if I spend all my time, all my energy fighting you, Drew, Rob, when am I fighting master? I'm spending more time. We're like the same folks who sold black folks from the continent into slavery. We so busy fighting ourselves that we can't even figure out what we're doing wrong. We end up being like the gangbangers who are shooting each other on the streets. Like I said, when I do what I do, and I do just as much work as you do, I don't do the streets no more, bro. I did that for 25 years. I can't do it no more. But so I work in other areas. My thing is the work that I put in, I'm focusing strictly on how to uplift my people. I can care less about the folks or all the dead weight that's in the neighborhood. They don't get in my way. If I do my job, I can be just as influential as each and every one of them, and I can pull my folks to freedom. But if I spend all my time on the plantation fighting with these cats, why am I wasting my time fighting with these cats? What value do they bring to me? None. So why even give them a space in my head to live in? That's my thing. We got work to do. I ain't got time to be chasing other black people who ain't doing due diligence when I know that I have the same responsibility to influence my people to go in a different direction. That's on me. So that's my assignment. Is like, yo, we gotta build. I don't have to kill every other black man. That makes me no difference than the cats on the streets killing each other.
Okay, so
if I'm blasting people publicly, for all the folks who are legit great candidates or great potential leaders or great potential heads of nonprofits, yo, they're not touching it. Because what they do is they look and they go, nah, I ain't putting myself out there. Ain't nobody gonna get up on the radio or in all these platforms. We blow me up because I'm not living up to their expectations. So we lose out on people. We can't find a decent candidate to run for state senate, for any of the state rep races, because nobody wants to get involved. Because anytime you step up to the plate to do something, you're under this huge, unrealistic spotlight, and black folks just come at you. You know, as you say, you know, speaking from experience, I wasn't even elected official. It was just working for that dude. I caught hell. I had folks calling me demons, coons, sellouts. People were having meetings. There was one meeting with agency heads from Dunbar, Cheryl Lynn, Dora, Urban League, all of them. They sat in the room trying to figure out how to get me fired from downtown. Denise Jordan had to step in on my behalf. Then I had folks, you know, the so-called street workers who run the street. They were meeting, telling everybody what a whole cats don't know me, don't know about my kids, didn't even know where I live. So my thing is, when you get under that spotlight, who wants to run if you make one misstep, because we're all human? You make one misstep and everybody comes for you.
But Dale, they're not making missteps, bruh. See, you're with the way you set that up, it was perfect if they were doing that. They're not making missteps. They're not making human errors. And so I wanna address one issue. It's hard to get to master when you got niggas standing in your way. So what do? How do you get to master when you got Negroes in your way? How do you get to master when you have Negroes who depend on masters for his check?
When you had him shook like hell up in Mason Square, did it matter who was in your way?
Yeah, because I had to be.
Did you have him shook?
Yes.
Did you have him stuttering? Hold up. Did you have him stuttering? Come on.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you? He didn't know what to say or what to do
until somebody came to his rescue.
He was looking around for his favorite Negroes, and they were powerless.
No. They didn't stop you. Somebody came to his rescue, stood in front of me, and said, "Stop." Down at City Hall doing another event when I was booing him, somebody stood in front of me and said, "Stop. This is not the time to do this." Plus, he gave us all the money to do this. Every single time, Daryl, that I confront the mayor, there is somebody black who will stand in between me and the mayor telling me it's not the right time or to be quiet. So these are tangible people doing these things. And
the flip side is, I'm sorry. And the flip side is, she cut you off. But when I look at the work that she does in them City Hall chambers, if you're talking about Tracy Whitfield,
I said I didn't mention no name.
No, I am because I know who it was. And I'm simply saying, she's a perfect example. When I look at the work, this sister don't even sleep sometimes.
But she stopped me though. But one of the things that you do, Daryl, that you do a good job of, is defending people for their actions and quantifying their actions by them doing good work. And this is the problem we have in Springfield.
But is she doing good work?
I don't know, brother. What I do know is this.
Yes.
What I do know is this. We live in the 54th most dangerous city in America. What I do know is this, that during this whole time of gun violence, but we don't want to, I got an analogy I make up. We're in a ball and we're having a ball dance, and the room looks good, the food is good, but on the front of the guy's tuxedo, it's full of blood. I come into the place and I say, "Hey, wait a minute, guy, you got blood on your white tuxedo." And everybody's saying, "Why are you focusing on the tuxedo with the blood? Can't you see how wonderful the lights are? Can't you see what a good spread they have here?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, I see all of that too, and it's wonderful. But don't you think that blood on the shirt is awkward?" And so for the blood on the shirt, I consider the whole city council, I consider all the state representatives as inadequate when it comes to one particular thing. It's not even the worst thing in some people's mind in Springfield, but 100 dead black people in the city of Springfield. Now, I know that's small on everybody's agenda, and everything else is just as important, and we link it all together, but the people are still dying. The people are still overdosing. So when there's no conversation at all towards that, then for me, it's like everything else is irrelevant that you do.
So
to me.
Right. And if I said the same thing, if I look at the focus that other groups are doing that you're not even thinking about, if we say the root cause of violence is typically poverty. So if you're not doing nothing to reverse poverty, then you're putting Band-Aids, we're fighting everybody, we're putting Band-Aids on stuff, but we're still not resolving anything. I dig where you're coming from. Somebody has to work on the root cause. Somebody else is working on the effect. It's like walking to a hospital and telling doctors, "No, you're only going to work with cancer patients." Well, what about the people who are having heart attacks? What about the folks with the strokes? What about the guy with the asthma attack? What about the kid who just broke his ankle? So I dig where you're coming from, but I believe that everybody has a role. Do we have coons and mascots? We absolutely do. Do we know who they are? We absolutely do. Do they stop the work? Absolutely not. Are they distractions? Yes. If I focus all my attention on them, then I'm not getting my work done.
That's by design. What's key?
Well, I can multitask. I'm good at multitasking, so I'm glad I can multitask and not allow the distractions to get on me. But I say that for those of us who have like we're watching all of this unfold in front of us, right? And we're saying, like, there comes a point of time. I'm gonna use another analogy. In the Navy, they say all hands on deck. So no matter what you think you're doing at that time that is important to you, no matter how many instructions you got, when you hear all hands on deck, that means something else is going on that you can get back to that other stuff, but we need all hands on deck.
Yep.
And when you have a city as small as Springfield, 13 murders a year, Black people and Puerto Rican people kill each other on the streets. And I'll say this, if 100 white people were killed in Springfield, right? All of the Black city council members, the state representative, the Puerto Rican one, Richard Neal, Elizabeth Warren, all them crackers would have all them Negroes standing in line out front to make sure that the white people's dead children would have a voice. We're the only community that when our children die or murdered in the streets, we try to somehow say that we can continue doing these other things and that those other things will stop the violence. But while all those other things are going on, people are still being killed.
But you just made yourself the captain and you said economic development and equity are irrelevant and insignificant. No, what you're saying is what I'm working on, when I say all hands on deck, the bottom line is there's no, it's not an either or, it's an either and. And if we can't understand what the intersectionality is between all these efforts that have to get done, and then when you say all hands on deck, it's kind of like, who's in the position? Who is in the position to get everyone to stop everything? If you're on a boat and they say all hands on deck, it's the captain saying that, or the captain giving a direct order. Who's giving that instruction to say, who's making that statement, all hands on deck? Just because I think my issue is the priority, listen, brother, I've done the gang into, I ain't done it recently, let me be really clear. I've been there, I've done it. I've been out in the middle of ish that most people won't touch. Been there. I understand how critically important that is. For me, it's kind of like, if we can boost up Echo Dab and we can get these kids, owning businesses, and we can get these families up out of poverty, get them to the point where they can see things a little differently, that might be a little more effective. You get tired of working with one person at a time, hoping that it's like the domino effect. Or I can create opportunities where I can impact 20, 30, 40 people at one time. So, but in the meantime, it doesn't mean that the work that you're doing is less important. It doesn't mean that what Charles Stokes is talking about isn't critically important. Oh, we look at them 94 bodies and there's no resolve. Families still have no answers. There's no sense of urgency. Oh, that's critical. Devalue it? Never. Would I ever tell you that it's not important? I'd be insane to do that. I think anybody would. I'm simply saying we collectively got to do a better job of building the influence so that when we say all hands, when Charles Stokes says all hands on deck, it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter who's running a nonprofit. When Charles Stokes says all hands on deck, everybody stops and they respond. Because Charles Stokes made that call, because his body of work is that damn valuable. And people see it, they respect it. And so when he says all hands on deck, everybody says, okay, Rob, we're going to put our efforts on hold. we gotta go jump to see what Charles is doing. Period.
No, and Brother D, I'm not even saying that from you. I'm not even saying that from you, brother's position. I'm saying the position of like, and this is what those of us who we work with, we talk about all the time. Like I talk about the loving spirit of Black people who will try to work with others in spite of seeing that they have no interest at all. And we keep, and for 40 plus years here in the city of Springfield, this is what goes on. And now here we are, 2022. Mm-hmm. We're having the same conversations that I was having in 1998 with people who was telling me, hey man, you're just angry. You're just up. And then when everything that I've been saying that's been happening, the murder, I said, we gotta deal with mental health. A Black man gets killed with mental health. And the community, I'm talking about the citywide response to a Black man with mental health getting killed in the streets was nothing. I'm talking about that nobody showed up to even, when the cops shot the guys in Minnesota or Baltimore, you saw this huge coming out of Black people just interested in looking. Here in the city of Springfield, you know what the conversation was? What did he do to get shot? He must have done something. Nobody, not a Black official, not a Black community resident, not a Black talking head, nobody from the Black community who talks so much about loving Black people even came out to see what happened.
Stokes, would you agree we're in a war?
Absolutely.
Okay, so based on that war, we need to take a special forces approach. You got someone who does recon, someone that does communications, someone that does counterintelligence, someone that does demolition. A special forces team, you can't have everybody in the team just doing demolition. I mean, everybody may be well versed in some of the other disciplines, but everybody has a specific talent, specific experience around doing certain things. And we can't take a myopic approach that, hey, this is my approach, this is the way I need to do it, this is how it's going to get done, and forget everybody else. No, you have your approach in terms of what you do, and that's the importance of putting a team together. This is what my focus is. My focus might not be the same focus as Daryl, but we will have some focus that align with one another, but his expertise or his energy is going to be used over here, and my expertise, energy is going to be used over here, and other people on the team,
everybody got to know their role.
Everybody's got to know their role. But I see Keaton on, and he hasn't said anything, so I'm curious to see what.
I can't even see with my glasses on.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you, brother. I love you, brothers. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know that. I want to say something to Stokes though, and Stokes will be the first one to tell you. I always tell him we need people like Stokes. You really do. But at the same token, and I was there, Stokes, and I was there that day when we were over in the Hill McKnight area. So Tracy did step in, but what you left out, Stokes, is you and Tracy teamed up that day, and y'all still combined and went together. Y'all went together so it wasn't her stopping you and people getting in your way. So, but I want to say that is you guys had a uniforce team right there at that time, so we can unify. But I agree with what Rob was just saying. I mean, we all do different. Even us four, we all do different things, and we all have specialties in different areas. But one of the things that we really haven't done is united together. and brought that to fruition of really what we're trying to do. And it's all about action. See, we just celebrated Juneteenth, right? And we take everything into a celebration.
Yeah.
And it was a good moment to celebrate and acknowledge the whole concept of Juneteenth. But, we could have got a lot more out of, and this is not knocking anything what anybody did for Juneteenth. Let me just get that clear. But we could have got a lot more out of explaining what the Emancipation Proclamation is and what does it mean. Why doesn't they teach this in schools? Why isn't the school department down here asking and vouching that they're going to implement Juneteenth in the curriculum? Why didn't we have them come down, and why did they even hold a celebration, since we're talking about education? So these are some of the things that we need to, really fight for. And listen, the gun violence is a problem, Stokes, but the economic one is probably the biggest issue that we have. And we don't tackle that. Like, you're passionate about that, and then I know Robin was passionate about that. But if they're doing a rally on economic, we probably won't see Stokes or me or something. And what we need to do is we need to get on each other's efforts and support each other in everything we do. Now, I mean, I'm not coming to everybody's rally because that marching is played out in the 60s to me. I'm not marching, but I am working on plans that improve this city. We're revitalizing NBAC, National Black Alcohol Addiction Council. You know about that, Stokes, with Dave Lewis. We're trying to bring the mental health services to the community, more outreach. And there's funding opportunities for us to do that. So we're working on that. There's an economic piece to that we have to really, really consider. And I know, Rob is a financial guy. I know Rob been saying it. How long you been saying this, Rob? The last 10 years, right? Even longer than that. But it's not like we listen, we come and listen. We sit in these seminars, we sit in these dinner and dialogues, and we clap and go right back to like amnesia after we get out of these things.
That's
like what they said wasn't valid to anything to do to improve the community. In order for you to listen, what we're dealing with in Springfield is going on all across the country with gun violence. It ain't just Springfield, but since we live in here, that's where we take the onus to. But we have to prove the condition of our people first before we can go around and improve the condition of other people.
And so,
we the ones that need the. We the ones. We the ones, Stoke, that need the checkup from the neck up, because we the ones that are. We worrying about what this person is doing, and that person is doing, but we not coming up with the solid solutions. And listen, I don't care. Listen, I love Stokes. I love Rob. I love Daryl. And me and Daryl disagree all the time. But that don't mean I'm not going to work with Daryl, or I'm going to work with Rob, or I'm going to work with you. And that's what we have to do. We have to come to that solid ground is, okay, yeah, but come here and sit with me. Let's work together. Let's see if these kids out here with these guns, what have y'all brought to them economically that they're going to listen to that's solid?
Most of them got more money. Most of the young people y'all talking about with the guns, they got more money than they don't want to sit down and talk about evaluating some economic plan. They evaluate the economic plan.
But Stokes, that's not what I'm talking about. What? But listen,
I was with a couple of kids. I was with 3 cats last week, and they want to know. Here's the deal: they have more money in their pockets than I probably make all year. But what they understand is they don't have a career beyond the drug game. So there's no retirement plan with the drug game, and that was our conversation. And you know what they did? They sat there and listened for over an hour.
Yeah,
to somebody who ain't never been in a game.
Yeah, and I want this. And
these kids are smart enough to understand. I make more money than you. I can off the air. I'll tell you who I was with, and you can go talk to them. But I'm just saying they understand that there is no retirement plan in the drug game. There's
You know
no
what they know too? You know what they do know more than anything, Daryl? Daryl, this is what they do know. They know their rules are this. This is their rules. They're going to get that money. The consequences they would rather go to jail and die.
Some of them. Yeah.
Some of them. Than they graduate from our public schools, not all of them, but most of them, barely able to read and write. Barely able to spell and all of those different things that we have found that they need. And so as we're talking about creating economic programs and doing these things, the question that I'm asking, over the last 25 years, we have been having this conversation, and we've been saying that all of these different things, me, you.
There's a difference.
Social justice.
The last 25 years, I know with the groups that I work with, there ain't been no conversations. It's real simple. What do we need to do? Because the folks that I work with, we doers.
Yeah.
Everybody always says we've had these combos, and there has been combos. But since I got here, the first group I was with was About Phoenix. And we were putting in work our own way. We were teaching Black history in the community centers, in the neighborhoods. That's what we said we were going to do, and we did it. So for me, and I know working with Rob since college, it's kind of like, hey, there's really not a lot of conversations. It's what do we need to do? Let's get it done. Right. I've done something through. How many conversations we had before we said we're going to do the festival? We ain't taking no white dollars. We don't want no sponsorships. We're going to do it on our own to show our folks that we can do it.
Actually, that was a conversation sitting on the hill, and we actually implemented the festival just off a conversation within a matter of 2 or 3 months, and that's how it happened. We didn't wait on nobody. But I wanted to say this, Stokes. I wanted to say this. Across my case desk, I have about 4 gun violence. First of all, our kids are not, they read, and they're some of the smartest kids that I've ever seen. These kids are smarter than my ass. Yeah. The other piece to that is we haven't done the same thing in 25 years. You haven't sat down. Okay, Rob, you're a financial planner, right?
No, I'm in insurance.
You're in insurance, but we haven't sat down and say, Stokes, you got 10 of the kids. Let's bring a financial planner into them, somebody that know what they're talking about, and talk to them about what are the ways they can do for the monies. So these are different ways that we can be, innovative and stuff that we're doing. The same conversation is just to keep arguing with each other. We don't have to do that. We got to start implementing the stuff. All of us have like tons of knowledge and programs that we can go to and resources we can go to. And that's another thing too. We got to stop with this. We got to wait for them to do something. We got resources and people that can do stuff across the state. We don't have to succumb to white supremacy and keep saying white supremacy when we're the only the only way we're going to be, we're the solution. The only way we're going to solve our own problems if we are the solution to them. That's the facts, man. They ain't giving us nothing.
To amplify what Daryl said, we ain't talkers. Daryl and I, we ain't talkers. We strategize and we implement. We don't sit around rooms. We sat in rooms where people want to talk and pontificate and talk. Nothing gets done.
Right.
We just get things done. Like Keaton said, we have the resources internally, but also this is a multifaceted battlefront that we're dealing with. So my focus with my expertise is on the economic development. We've talked and marched on that social justice stuff for years, and it's just it's a nothing burger. It's
50 years on equality.
Yeah, it just goes in circles and circles, and they know this, and that's why they're always trying to push, crime bills and all this other stuff.
Right.
They're nothing burgers.
Right.
I'm focused on economic development. Stokes, you're focused on what your initiative is. Dee's on his initiative. Keaton, you're on your initiative, but we're still fighting the battle, right?
I think my point is being missed. I think sometimes that my point is missed. And I think sometimes when I talk to a lot of brothers like yourself and other brothers in the community, sometimes I think that people think that somehow I'm trying to diminish what other people are doing.
No,
Right now, I don't even get a chance. Every time I get ready to speak, before I can even finish my thought, I'm being cut off to tell me what people are not doing before I can even get my thought process out.
Because you're long-winded, man.
Yeah, because what I've seen is, I've heard this say, what I'm hearing from you guys in 2022, I heard in 1998, 2000, 2010, 2022. So at some point, the approach that we're all taking obviously has helped Springfield, whether this is important or not, become one of the most violent cities in the country to live in. And my thought process is, if you don't stop the violence, every other work is an exercise in futility, because you might not see your dream, because these stray bullets on King Street particularly don't have any names. So I think that sometimes it's like, I don't mean no harm. I'm just going to continue to focus what we've been focusing on, because it's like, and I've been here a long time. And before y'all got here, Daryl, the same conversations about creating economic bases, all of this stuff. And for some reason, that work doesn't touch the families of the deceased people in our community. How is that helping everything that we're doing collectively? How has it stopped gun violence?
Well, let me say this. I think we all have a flag to carry. You see somebody, if we had people dying every day in the street, we'd have 365 deaths this year, right? You know how many cats I've run into on that? And I'm not even devaluing your work. What the work you're doing, we need people to do it, and you do it well. I say keep doing it. No argument. But I think at the same time, we have to be honest about the information that we're putting out. We're not losing 365 people per year. You know how many times I've heard people say I do street work, and they're telling me that we're losing people every day, somebody dying. That would be 365. Name a year in Springfield that we lost 365 people. Name one. I mean, one is too many. Don't get it twisted. One is too many. The other piece is this whole conversation around equity is brand spanking new. There wasn't no conversations. I was in New Haven doing the same work. Bridgeport, same work. Waterbury, same work. Then I came here. There were no conversations around, shifting the focus to economic development and black business development. That's a new combo.
Well, no, Mother Carol Arangio
was ahead of her time, and people didn't listen. Otherwise, there would have been a whole lot. Things would have been done much differently.
So, but what I'm saying is, like I said, I've heard these conversations with Carol Arangio, with a credit union, teaching people in the credit union economic value. She has schools and literature. A lot of the people that's graduated from school here learned from Carol Arangio. And at the same time, all of that was happening. We was losing businesses. We got caught up with Albano, whatever that mayor name was. We lost NES. We lost the credit union. We lost the fish store. We lost everything. And now we're trying to build it back up. So,
should we not build it back up?
And yeah, I mean,
it's a real question. Should we not build it back up? When I moved to Springfield because of what Springfield had. Coming from Waterbury, we didn't see just black business after black business after black business. We didn't have that. Springfield had something special. We didn't have that. So coming from the outside, yo, man, my lens is completely different from yours. I see the value. I see the capacity that Black Springfield has. I don't see all the baggage. I don't need to see the baggage. I ain't seen it since I got here. I see these young kids who run around from the time I got here, from Hilltop all the way up until today. I've seen these kids, and I'm telling you, I see brilliant young brothers and sisters. I don't see dudes on suicide missions. I see brilliant young people. So when I step to them, let me finish. I don't step to cats as if they gang members. I don't step to cats as if they're potential killers or victims. When I talk to young people, and they'll tell you this, I see people, man. I'm not, we have people who are like, oh my God. We have people who, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just saying over the years I've been in the frustrating pieces, we have people who complain like hell. When Carol Randall was when they were running the credit union, I kept hearing people complaining about it. Oh, she ain't this and they ain't doing that. And it's like, first thing I did when I got here was open an account. I thought that was brilliant. We need our own financial institutions. But Black folks didn't respond, so we can't blame the leadership. And I don't even know if Carol Randall would call herself a leader. She was a worker. You can't blame the people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into developing something when the rest of the community seen it and just blew it off. People, folks, may have heard the conversations, but they didn't internalize it. There's a difference. Otherwise, we would have changed it because they were way ahead. We still don't have a financial institutions. You look at the Black community across the country, we have less than 20 Black financial institutions total. And then we wonder why, our families are still broke, why we still don't have, legacy plans. We don't have life insurance, health insurance. We have nothing because those are conversations people didn't listen. So what we do is we know what the root cause is, but we rather focus all of our energy on the effects. If we still have Black businesses, then I can take my kids to businesses and they can see folks who look like them who own businesses. They can see a future in that.
Right.
Actually, they can get jobs. They can get apprentices. So if you tell me we should just ignore all that and only focus on the battlefront that you're on, man, then we're gonna lose something over here. So it's not and I keep saying so. It's not an either or. I'm not even shooting down what you're doing or what you're saying. I'm saying when you're damn good at what you do, build that body of work and the rest of the folks will surely follow. What we have to do differently is we have to get the buy-in from the community. And we can't if we're fighting each other. Bud Williams, everybody knows Bud Williams is Bud Williams. Do we need a more effective state rep? And I don't care if somebody call him and tell him. Hey, yeah, absolutely we do. But if we can't convince people, we have to build the influence to the point. When we say, vote person B, people vote person B. We can't get mad because they voted for this dude. We can't get mad because the people came out and voted. He can't vote himself in. But if we're not doing our work to build up our influence so that we can take control of the leadership and get them to go in a different direction, we know that they've been marching into a burning house forever. But we spend more time complaining, and we all do it, so it's not just about Stokes. I'm just saying in general, not targeting anybody. We watch people march into a burning house, and we just quietly complain on the sidelines. Oh, that don't make no sense. Keaton don't know what he's doing. Yeah, I can't work with Keaton. I heard Keaton say it earlier when I had to step off the mic. People, I'm not working with that one. I don't work with this one. It's kind of like, but this dude has a strategy and a plan that'll work. But we're clicked up. We're no different than the gangbangers. As a matter of fact, Springfield is the 54th most violent city in the country because the adults that should be role models to kids we gangsters in our own right. We spend more time arguing and fighting with each other. So what do you think the kids are seeing?
I think that when you say arguing and fighting and complaining, those are negative connotations. That and so we don't consider ourselves arguing or complaining.
Stokes.
I'm just saying.
I'm one of them. I'm not talking about you. I'm saying in general.
No, I'm saying that language. That language in and of itself, it deters people from thinking critically and responding to it because they don't want to think that they're complaining or arguing or airing out dirty laundry. Because as soon as you start highlighting the inadequacies of, because see, I don't expect white people to do nothing for me. So I don't call out Kittery Walsh. I don't call out them. I call out the black people particularly because they're saying we stand up for you. And then when you don't do it, then you're whispering with
and it's easier to go after a black person than it is to go after a white person.
I'm the only black man in Springfield.
I'm gonna blow up Talbot Swan, or I'm gonna blow up Charles Stokes because I can't go after Mike Fenton. I think we're crazy like that sometimes.
No, I think some of y'all are crazy like that because I go after white people the same way. I don't have.
You just said you don't.
I said I don't have to call them out. I don't expect them to do nothing. But Jesse Letterman, Mike Fenton, all of them, I've had conversations with them.
I don't have a conversation.
Hillary Walsh.
Don't vote for them. Don't trust them. Let them go on about it. Don't vote for them. Bullet vote. Vote for folks in your community who have a body of work. Stop voting for personalities. Stop voting for people who come from legacy families. Stop voting for people who ain't never did nothing in the community. Then all of a sudden they pop up and they say, I want to be your leader. No, leaders have to prove their worth and their value, period. So not telling people you can't critique someone who wants to be a leader, and who you call leader is going to be different for everybody. You can critique, but sometimes we're bitter, and I'm just saying in general. Don't take it personal, brother. We're on the radio, so I'm talking to anybody in the listening audience. We go after people, we cut people apart, and sometimes we don't even know these people personally. That's not healthy, because then when we need people to come in and really impact change, we can't get people to impact change because who wants to be a target? I said it earlier. I don't want to be a target because I'm not doing what you want me to do or what Rob wants me to do. I'm doing what I feel is going to be effective. All of a sudden, people having small group meetings about you. Been in those shoes.
Yep.
I'm busting my butt, putting my family at risk, about to lose a job, the whole nine, and people somewhere calling you a coon, saying you a sellout, but don't know you and have never had a conversation.
Right.
I'm saying we have to
That's
be
facts.
We need to, if we have 20 organizations, those 20 organizations need to come together and bring these so-called if it's a viable nonprofit and they're getting major funds, bring them in and sit them down at the table and dish out real accountability. But, just publicly going after black people because they don't agree with you, I think that's crazy. And I think that's nuts. I can't do that. And I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. And having, healthy conversations and just simply be like, you know what, Rob? I can't work with you no more. I just can't work with you. Matter of fact, I'm going to make sure nobody works with you if I can help it. And that's the last conversation I had. Everything after that is making sure the job gets done. I don't have to speak your name. Forget putting you down. It turns people off, and people won't get involved in the political process because we dog people. We dog them. There are some folks that deserve it, but I say, we have to move past them, steal that influence, and keep it moving and redirect. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I agree. I don't have like I said, dealing over the last 2 years with Juanita and all of those families, and just listening to their stories and then listening to what people are saying I've watched during the pandemic how Juanita was used, and I saw all of these things, man, by people in the community who are supposed to be in good standings, and then you see them, and people also know who people are not, who are supposed to be in good standing, have done some very corrupt things, and y'all going out to eat together, you're having dinner together, you're laughing and kicking it together, and at the same time, that very person that's in the midst of us that we have linked ourselves with, they've done some terrible things here in the city of Springfield, and it's just disheartening. Like, I got some good news though. My offer for a house has just been accepted, so I'll be a homeowner soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations, man.
So I want my invite to the cookout.
No, definitely, right? And so, like, For
No
me,
scammers.
Daryl, Rob, and Andrew, like my life, I just looked at my credit score. It's a 709. Everything in my life is great, right? And I could sit back with my daughter, relax. I don't have to even be involved the way that I'm involved, right? But it's just something about, and I do take it personal, my past here, on what was done to me and a bunch of other men like myself. As we look around this city, you got like 6 or 7 men on lifetime parole. You have people who have been just the elitist, so-called elitist Black class here in the city of Springfield did some terrible things to us. And I carry that. I really do. I'm going to be honest. I carry it. It's personal. I know who they are. And then to see this upcoming people who are screaming this, doing what they're doing is reminiscent of the past. And I think that, like I tell the people that we're working with, we can't expect nobody outside of our circle to understand the agony, the pain that we are fighting and we're doing, right? And so a lot of us are angry. A lot of us are bitter. A lot of us, not just me. And I'm being honest and open at this point. Some of them, my elders here in this community, yeah, man, it's painful, it's difficult, it's personal. I don't like none of them. I'm being honest. And I love you guys. You guys are my brothers, but there's just some people in this city. It's my life mission.
And I respect that. I respect that. And and I'm glad you said that, because I think our listeners need to know. It's like, listen, man, it just is what it is. There's some folks that done some foul things, and I ain't gonna tell you forgive and forget. I don't believe in forgive and forget. I don't believe in forgive and forget. That just ain't real. So I think where you coming from.
So I just want to be honest with that part.
We got some work to do, and I gotta play my disclaimer. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I gotta do that periodically.
Yeah, you better play that.
Yeah, no. And I know I asked Keaton to come on to talk about, the Juneteenth history, all that stuff.
I'm gonna let you brothers go. Thank you for allowing me to annoy y'all. I love you guys, man. Listen, D. Now I'm gonna tell you something.
Yes, sir.
And I don't just say things to say things. I love all you brothers, man. And I love Black people, but this goddamn Springfield, man.
Some of us is hard to love, man. Can we agree on that? Some of us are hard to love, boy.
Yeah, and Stoke, this ain't no different for anywhere else you go. So when you move, you're gonna deal with the same issues and the same problems. So in my heart, you gotta live with the love in your heart for your people, regardless of how they treat you and what they do.
Hey, Stokes, before you go, can I say this?
Yeah.
You can go back to you can go back to one of the 2 towns I grew up in. You can go back to go live in Meriden or go live in Waterbury for about, you say the Waterbury, right? Go move to Waterbury for 3 years. I guarantee you're gonna come running back to Springfield, talk about some, oh my God. Yo, if you think Springfield is bad, you gotta look at some of these little towns. And you're gonna come back here saying, okay, we ain't that bad. Go live in one of them towns, then come back. See the position that Black folks is in, man. We don't have half down there. We don't have half. We don't have a quarter of what y'all grew up with here in Springfield.
Damn,
bad and different. We didn't have a quarter of it. We ain't had no electeds. We had no businesses, brother. We had nothing. All we had was poverty. That's it. Oh, and a whole hell of a lot of racism. So coming up here for folks who didn't live here, remember you back in your day when all the Connecticut folks would come up here. We came up here for we came.
Y'all did come up here for a reason to stick us up.
We came here for a reason. Springfield had resources. Y'all had, listen, even y'all hood. All your, cats, you come from Springfield where I grew up at. Then you drive by where they grew up at, and cats had front yards, backyards, and driveways. I'm sorry, and a garage.
Right.
I'm like, whoa! I tell the story all the time. I couldn't find the projects when I moved to Springfield.
I'm from the projects, Daryl. That's not. You was hanging out with the rich folks.
I couldn't find the projects, bro. I was with
We
the
had
keyboard.
townhouses
I
here.
couldn't find the projects. I thought they were condominiums.
Yes. Yes. We grew up in townhouses. And listen here, Springfield at one time, brothers, it was the most beautiful place in the world to live at, man. Buckingham Street, Bay Street, all that stuff was beautiful. The crack cocaine epidemic came in, as it did all over the country, and then the gentrification and all of that stuff. So, like, it's a fight, and sometimes I get caught just with blinders on. I'll admit that. I'm never one not to admit my faults, and I got to stop taking things like really, really personal. But I do, and I really take it personal, and I'm working on that. I'm a human being. I'm working on it, and I'm hoping to get better. But until then, move. Get out the way. Get out the way. Move. No, sir. I love y'all. God bless y'all. Good night.
All right, bro.
All right, man.
All right, y'all. This is 90.7 WTCC FM. Drew, I know I asked you to come on so we can talk about this whole Juneteenth thing, the history, and some other things, man. I don't know if you still got the energy. It's 11:40. I know Rob is sneaking out the door right now.
Yes, sir.
So
maybe we can do that. I mean, maybe we can just formulate the conversation next week and get into like history. I know it's late though. I mean, well, first of all, it was good conversations. I'm sorry I was late because we had another show we were doing with the Wayne Williams thing. So I apologize though. But kudos to y'all for all the help you did with the Juneteenth Jubilee, with the flyers and all the entertainment, all the stuff that y'all did. Part of it, I know. We had a spades tournament and we did all the other stuff to it. But like I said, when I came on, I mean, at some point, I hope something stirs up out of this because, it's funny, Daryl, because I wasn't really familiar with Juneteenth until a couple of years later. And I'll just be honest. And I thought I was, doing rights of the rights of damn, what am I doing? The rites of passage. We never really discussed that to our kids.
Right.
So one of the things that, and it's funny though, because when you start reading and you indulging in books, you start find out, oh, they lied to you about this, or they didn't disclose this. So one of the things that I want to see and I want to hope to do is at some point get an academy down here that we can teach these kids. Because that should be it would be very and very important if we can do that. We can teach them about Juneteenth. We can teach them about their historic impact around the world. We can teach them, we can teach from books like They Came Before Columbus, and we can teach about all of that stuff. We can go into the nationality and the proclaim and stuff, but it needs to be a educational component that these kids start learning about all of that stuff. And I know there will be some changes if that happens, along with your economic piece and all the other stuff that you can combine into that curriculum.
Right, and we definitely need to do that because there's just so much. We have people who study for years, and there's just so much that they don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, there's historical figures who made moves back in the 1920s. I'm talking about Noble Drew, and I was familiar with Noble Drew from, I don't know, my early years at Southern Connecticut.
Right.
But I don't think people understood his impact
and
how he's still impacting change today, and just the whole big world of possibilities. So when they talk about Juneteenth and freedom, I think what I want to talk about and hope we can talk about on Monday is like, even though in Galveston, Texas, they issued that decree and just kind of let people know, listen, you are free. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed. But we all know that, although the physical vestiges of slavery had ended, the shadow still remained. And the only way to truly free yourself, I think the only person that had a truly viable solution was Noble Drew.
Right.
From when he took the country to court, won his case. And I think history kind of oversteps that. I read, before the Mayflower, I've read everything about Lamar Bennett. I can name, historical figures. I've read Dr. Bennett. Nobody really focuses on Noble Drew Ali and, the Moorish Temple. And I know you and I, we go back and forth about the whole national identity thing. I think it's a conversation that folks need to have, and not just in the context of what we call ourselves, but also in terms of the legal impacts.
Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to say something, Daryl, because I mean, we've had these conversations I don't think it's so much we go so much about it. I just think about we don't know. And even myself, as well as I'm learning about it, we just don't know a lot about it. So when we say, like when I say Daryl's a Moor or something like that, it's not a straight up, so you go on YouTube and you hear all these definitions. That's not what it is. So at the end of the day, Daryl Moss defined who he is by maybe a tribe or who he came from. That doesn't mean he isn't a Moor or anything like that, but we're not confined to one category. Remember, we gave the birth to the nation, we gave the birth to the world. So if you really look at that, we fathers to everybody. So we can define, instead of categorizing ourselves as one particular thing, we can define ourselves as anything we want to define. So when you look at that, we have God powers that people don't even understand and realize to that point. So when we're going back and forth, it's not that. It's just the God power in you recognize that, hey, I'm not defined by anybody else, because that's really what you're saying to me.
Right. Absolutely.
So when you look at that and you tap into the power, then you start really understanding, I am a Moor, but where am I from? I'm a Moor, I have the Caribbean background. I'm a Moor from here, I'm there, and all that. So you define where you are. The issue is we always let somebody come in and tell us who we are, and we never once defined who we are. Remember, the black term, even though slave owners used that term, it didn't really have any relevance until the 60s. That's when that whole term came out. And I can tell you where it came from. Stokely Carmichael actually coined that phrase. And I don't want to get into the whole history.
No, he actually coined the phrase Black Power.
But my point is Black Power, but the use of the word and uprising of black. Because I remember even what my mother would tell me, that when you in school and somebody called you black, y'all was fighting. That was just like saying your mom. Remember the word somebody would say, your mama? Yeah. You was fighting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did when it was. My mother told me, and I asked her, she told me that the other day. If somebody called you black, you was beating that person up, whether they were white, whether they were black, whatever they was, because that's not what we called. We were called that, So I'm just saying, so it's just really about, so in my path, I'm just learning a lot, and more and more I learn and know, I'm starting to get silence, because I'm trying to really tap into my power first before I can tell Daryl who he is. I need to know who I am.
No, I get you, and it's just interesting because when I look at the vast majority of people who are, in terms of tribal ethnicity, more Yoruba than anything else. That's my only insight. The only conflict I have is like, well, I know where my people came from. Didn't you white people tell me? But it's just like, okay, why can't, when do we start to embrace who our folks were, point of arrival?
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who did, I hear cats saying, but you're not that, and you didn't come off a ship.
Yeah. But Daryl, listen to this. Yep. Do you really know your people come from, or everywhere? Well, no, listen. Just listen. Do you know where they come from, or anywhere you put your feet, Is that where they from?
No, I'm
Just
telling
think
you.
about that. Just think about that. Wherever you put your feet, huh?
You know, it's like Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his
Well,
home.
no, we not refer that, not that
No, I'm just
reference.
saying, you're saying where you lay your feet, your home, right?
No. What I'm saying to you, I'm basically generalizing, saying that we are the creators of civilization. We are from everywhere.
Yep.
There ain't no specific point that I can look at the God in Daryl and say, oh yeah, Daryl from over there, because I'm not confining Daryl. Daryl is from everywhere. If we were made in the like image of God and God is everywhere, then so can't Drew and Daryl be everywhere. That's all. I'm just saying that. Now, I'm not getting religious or anything on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just seeing it as that point. So we're the only people that can make claim to that. Nobody else can make claim to that.
I get that.
Nobody. None of them can say that. Oh, I'm from here. You can't. Or if you do say you from here, you got a label, oh, they're Pacific. But we claim everywhere is our claim.
I think most people do. I think most people understand that black people populated the planet. If you follow, if you read the book Journey of the Sun God People, and they talk about how the different racial groups were created, not even created, how they evolved. The further north you go, the lighter your skin becomes, reflects the sun, talks about the nose thinning up to take in and warm the air. One of the dopest books I've ever run. So I get that. Everything and all things evolve from one central location. And those people were huge.
Yeah.
I get that.
And I'd rather Daryl, I'd rather you say, Daryl, you know where you're from? Yeah, I'm from here. I'm from the tribe, or I'm from here, I'm from this. And then we'd be like, that's right. That's where Brother Daryl is from.
But it's like I was telling my niece earlier when she asked me if do you believe in God? Do you believe in ancestors? I said, I believe in ancestors. I think ancestors come from the source. We are the source itself. That's just my thing. A lot of people listening may disagree with me. Right. And I was telling her, my sister before she passed met this old brother down in Reeltown, Alabama. It was a plantation where my grandfather and where they came from. And the dude was talking about the history of my family. He says, he told my sister, I knew your father, I knew your grandfather, and I knew your great-grandfather. He was like 96, 97. I knew your great-grandfather. He started talking about the type of people. He said, the men in that family, you talk about them deacons with guns down in Alabama and everything. He said,
right.
He says, your father's people were some of those people. Told about the story about one dude killed the sheriff, injured 2 deputies, had to change his name. They have a dope book about him. I just bought it and read it.
Mm-hmm.
He's describing all the personality and character traits of the men in my family.
Right.
That dude described me and my brother anti-authority, oppositional, and defiant. He said, if there's controversy, he said those men were dead smack in the middle of it. So for me, it's more important to figure out. It's like I think it's difficult for a person to define who they are and what they are and who they're going to be if they don't know and understand their past and don't understand where their people come from.
That's true. Right.
So my father would always talk about, his grandfather and great grandfather mentioned a Bobo. Yo, man, we go into the files and we see Louisa Bobo. They named her Louisa. It was something Bobo, but that was my father's great grandmother, and we see the inventory of what boat she came off of. So my problem is when people tell me, nah, we were already here, and I'm like, well, some of us actually came off of boats. So I'm like, and when you can follow that lineage all the way down to Louisa Bobo, and you're going back almost 150 years, how can you tell me who I am, what my nationality is, if this woman was whatever it was she was?
Yeah. So, and I want to add something else too. I want to add something else to it. A lot of us did come over here on boats that we navigated and we owned.
Yeah, but a lot of us came over in the bottom of those ships that people are saying didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying you wrong. I have to do more research on there. People have put stuff out there to dispute that. The thing about it is one of the thing about it, there's information out there to find that it is true and stuff like that. If until I see any legitimate slave logs, and I'm not talking about people where Europeans wrote on them, and I'm not talking about that. If I see legitimate slave logs and can trace back the history of when ships were built, because that's another conflict right there of interest now. So when I come and get into that information, start reading that, then I can probably give you a more definite answer in the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
But I'm not disputing anything what you're saying. I'm just saying, like they tell us, they tell us they give us a problem. They say quantify, vary, check it out, see if it's correct. So that's what we have to do with history now. We have a lot of information and tools to do that. So anytime before I speak out of turn, I'm going to check and validate it and see what it is. And that don't mean that it's still right. I'm just going to do my research on it.
All right, I respect that. But I still think the other piece is, I definitely want to talk about Noble Drew Ali and what he's done. Hoping we get some folks to come on and talk about that as we talk about, even the Moorish Temple. I think that's critical.
You can have. I mean, we can come on next month. We can come on next Monday, me and Mo, and we can come on and talk about it.
I think that'd be dope. I would love to hear. I think people need to hear that message, not forcefully, which I know that Danny style is definitely not Mo's. I just think people need to get an understanding of it. I think how I don't know, similar to the conversation with Stokes, I think, we have to do better in terms of educating our people. We got to stop forcing apple pies down their throat and give them a whiff of some good sweet potato pie. Just let them know just how sweet it is.
Yeah.
I think you catch more folks with honey than you do with anything else. And I just think it's a critical conversation. So I want to talk about Juneteenth, talk about some of the activities that took place and why we celebrate that. And then what I want to get into the Moorish Temple. If you guys are ready, if you guys are ready to have that conversation on Monday, that's cool. If we want to wait down the road, if people get more research.
No, we can have that conversation on Monday. We ready to talk about that, man. So you want to do the Juneteenth or just go over what happened this week? Do it real quick. Yeah. So what happened? I mean, it was a beautiful committee led by Tracy Whitfield, Justin Hurd, Daryl Moss is on the committee, myself, Julian Hinkson, Nicole Coakley, a few, Miss Burton, a few other people. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your name.
No,
I apologize.
I'm sure they'll understand.
So the committee met and they put together a wonderful program for you. So it started off Friday with the raising of the flag in Mason Square area. What they did is they put the Juneteenth flag up. A few people were there, and had people come out and speak about that. Led to the event at Blount Park. They had the spades tournament. They had the movie night. They showed Black Panther. They had a bunch of vendors. Had a couple of games going on. Food, Fish Grease, Tow It Up. Fish Grease, big shouts out to them. They did their thing with the food. They gave out free food. It was free ice cream for the kids. Then the next day, I actually was in the bed all day, Daryl, from being out all of the men. So they held it down. What they did, they had the vendors, they had the performances. I know you got them a few some recommendations for performers. It was the ceremony, award ceremony that they had, which led into Sunday. Sunday they had the Father's Day brunch, which I actually didn't stay for that, but we set up. The Father's Day brunch was off the hook because when I end up coming back to the park, I mean, the fathers were very happy. They had so much food. And it was great to see a lot of the fathers on the tail end when I had came back, man. They were really, really much appreciated that happened. And Tracy and them, I mean, they really put out the spread that was off this world, Daryl, for them. And then they did, they had a gospel performance, prayer, and then they went over to the park, the Riverfront Park, and led by Black Vivid, and they had a fashion show. They had all kind of teen activities. They were playing volleyball in the park. And they had vendors, and which capped the 3-day weekend. They also, I think, started Restaurant Week on Friday, so I think that's still going. I think all week, right?
All week.
Yeah, all week was going. So I mean, they had fun-filled event. It was nice, man. It was really, really nice. I know everybody's adopting Juneteenth, but like I said, what I would like to see added more is, for instance, I'm not talking about it because it's the event that's coming up, but one of the unique things that, and we got to understand that we have icons in this community that if we don't use them, we're going to lose them. So one of the things that it added to the Indie Soul Festival, which I think next year the Juneteenth should really consider this, is they're bringing in Professor Smalls.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that yet. And a lot of the stuff now, back to Stokes, a lot of the stuff that he talks about is things that we could just see. One of the things, though, people talk about the stuff in the community there, we just don't do them. And we always have an excuse why we don't do them.
Right.
And then we'll argue with each other why what this one ain't doing when we just not even looking at the mirror because we're not doing the same damn thing. We're wasting our time still arguing with that person when we could be doing this. Right. So he is a person that I respect. I mean, you know, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, he along them lines of those individuals and study underneath Dr. Clark. So he's going to be in the park, and I think this is a teachable moment that everybody can gravitate to. And that's what I would like to see. Like, I mean, even if they say, yo, Daryl Andrew, why don't y'all bring in some speakers next year for Juneteenth, and let's just do workshops in economic development and do history workshops and learn how to galvanize the crowd. I think that should be added, and get some scholars to come in and to really not just profiting on off the home Juneteenth moment, and I know we celebrate, but to really make it a really teaching, educational moment out of it and stuff like that. Yeah, so, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said no. I was just saying I agree with that 100%. 100%.
Yeah, because I gotta give the props too, because remember, this is the second year. Last year was only, I think, 2 days. This year it expanded to 3 days. They just did a wonderful job, man. Now that you have the captive audience, that you're going on your 3rd annual Juneteenth event, now it's time to ramp it up. Because, you know, as always, as somebody that does a festival, you know, your anticipation is going to be either the same or it's going to be better than it was next year. Right. And like adding somebody like Smalls, and then adding like a puppet show, like a historical, you know, melanated puppet show that these kids, I mean, that's fire, you know. So we can do stuff like that with Juneteenth as well. I think it's just adding to the fuel to the fire. But as you know, when you planted these things, you always got to make it look better. But you always got to bring something in to it has to be teaching moments too. And this is definitely going to be a teaching moment, though.
Yeah, it's going to be dope, and I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, it's also just to remind people, man, the beauty of the Juneteenth is looking at all the folks, the different groups that came together to really, you know, put that plan together and to make it work. It requires leadership. And I need people to understand that that's what real leadership does. You get all these different personalities to the table. It's never easy. It's hard to get all the personalities to the table and make that thing happen, and not just happen, but make it pop. So I'm gonna say kudos to all the folks who just, you know, who helped to pull that whole thing together and pull that committee together, man. Forget the event itself. Kudos to the committee for sticking to it. You know, there's rough days and there's easy days.
Yeah.
And they stuck, they seen it through to the very end, and it happened and it popped. That's what leadership is all about. So for the folks that put that together, to them, I say kudos.
Right. And I want to shout out, Paul Musso too, for doing the Underground Railroad tours. So they actually did the tours too. So during the actual event, people were signing up from the celebration, the Jubilee celebration, and going on the tours too. So that right there was all, and they did that last year too. So that's your educational experience on one hand. But at the same token, I think, you know, as you bring in and teach us about the Underground Railroad, we also got to teach us about, you know, the greatness and how great we can be as well and stuff like that. So that was powerful too. So I just had to throw that in too, because that Sam Bradley did a good job with that as well.
No, I'm glad you threw that in because I want to make sure everybody, as this replays throughout the week, make sure people catch that, make sure they understand that. That's dope. So I say kudos. I look forward. If I live long enough, I want to see next year. I want to see it grow more, and try and get involved a little bit more myself. I mean, we can complain on the sidelines, but I tell you, we do a much better job when we just go ahead, throw in the swim trunks, jump in the water, and help out.
Yeah. And I think at some point, I would like to put even if we can do it, I would like to put and hopefully it comes to fruition. If this happens, I would like to put together on that probably on that Sunday or I don't know Friday something a lecture series where we bring in about 4 or 5 speakers and we do some workshops. I know ever since I know Daryl's like let's do some workshops and you gotta look at Daryl like, man, there's some hard work, get some workshops in here. But it can be done, and I like the concept because I mean I've been to enough organizations who do workshops, and for Springfield to pull something like that off, especially during this month, or doing that actually weekend will be really powerful if we can just have get community organizations in here, make it mandatory, and just do workshops with these leaders and stuff like that. Not only would it make them feel a privilege, but it's also going back to us putting accountability in ourselves to implement what needs to be implemented in here. Because these people don't just talk in their areas; they go all over the country and they talk and they see what we don't see too. So
right, absolutely. All right, and it's 12:05 a.m. It's time to shift. Brother Drew, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the time spent. I appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom.
Yeah.
And,
so we doing the Mo thing next. We're doing the Mo thing next week because me and I can get Brother Mo to come on.
Yep, that'd be dope. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Do that.
All right, peace, bro.
All right, man. Peace. This is 90.7 WTCC Monday Night Live with D Moss. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. For all the folks who have checked out the live stream, we appreciate it. For everybody listening live on 90.7 WTCC FM, we appreciate you. Much love. We'll be back in about 30 minutes with non-stop music. Peace, y'all. We out. Thank you, Drew.
All right, thank you.